This is the Indiana State Police Public Information Program. I'm your host today, Super Dave Burston, Public Information Officer for the Indianapolis State Police Post. On this month's program, we're going to give you an inside view of the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, located just west of Indianapolis in Plainfield. If you've ever considered becoming a law enforcement officer, or you've just had an interest in the training that police officers receive, I think you'll find this program interesting. Now, what we're going to show you today is an overview of the training provided men and women who desire to become a police officer in Indiana. Indiana state law mandates that all persons who serve as a police officer in our state receive specific training before acting as a police officer on a permanent basis. The Law Enforcement Academy provides the location, facilities, and training staff to meet the needs dictated by Indiana law. This facility is responsible for the training the majority of police officers in Indiana. Some larger agencies, such as the Indianapolis Police Department, have their own police academies, but they too must still meet the requirements dictated by Indiana state law. The Law Enforcement Academy is also the home of the Indiana State Police Recruit School. While the state police does make use of the Law Enforcement Academy facilities, we provide our own training and staff for state police cadets. Any given time in the year, there may be a basic law enforcement class of 100 or more students and a state police recruit class of 60 to 80 cadets occurring at the same time. As you might well imagine, the Law Enforcement Academy is a very busy place. So now, sit back and enjoy the next half hour. I'll be back at the end of the show to tell you about next month's program.
Years before Christ was born, a man named Heraclitus was in the business of training warriors because the world was full of fight. It's not much different this day and age. Before this year is done, over 100 people are going to die in this profession. There will be a select, predictable few who are going to number that 100 plus. It will be the 10% that does not dedicate to discipline. Heraclitus had this much to say about the business of training warriors. Those who stand where you stand, like what you stand, and for what you stand. Here are his words. You will hear them more than once. They will tell you who we are looking for and who we are trying to identify. He said, of every 100 men they send me, 80 of them are nothing but targets. 10 of them shouldn't even be here. Of the 10 that are left, 9 of them are real fighters. But one of them is a warrior, and I must find him, for he will bring the others back. We are looking for the 10% that do not belong here. So just keep your head in the clouds. Pay a half bit of attention. Dick around and do it your way. Complain and moan and groan about the discipline coming your way in your life at this point in time. Identify yourself. Make it easy for us. Don't let us do this program and stick you out into that force of 500,000 others who are doing the job and doing it well. We have our eyes on you. You will identify yourself by name and by deed. So stand by.
New police officers gather 4 times each year at the Law Enforcement Academy for basic training. These men and women come from cities and counties large and small. A few represent universities and airports or special state law enforcement authorities. Yet all are here to fulfill the state's basic training mandate for law enforcement officers. The Law Enforcement Training Act of 1967 created the Indiana Law Enforcement Training Board. The board's mission is to establish minimum standards of training for law enforcement officers. The executive director of the training board is Colonel Arthur Rainey.
Prior to the adoption of the Law Enforcement Training Board statute, most training was conducted by individual departments. Most of the larger departments had some training program or academy that they were conducting. Most of them run in the neighborhood of 3 to 6 weeks. And the basic courses that were taught at Purdue University and Indiana University were 3 weeks in length. They were taught by a variety of police officers, both state officers, county officers, and city officers. And that was the limit of the training. And many of them, a town marshal would be appointed, and that would be it. I mean, he was given a badge and a gun and was expected to patrol the streets of the city and keep the kids in line and protect them from crime and things. And many of them tried and did their best. Many of them rode with county officers or with state police officers and learned a few things here and there. They went to the state police posts or the city department for some additional hands-on type training. The city of Indianapolis used to train a lot of officers around the state. In other words, people could send officers to their training academy. But even at that time, it was not too lengthy. State police training up until the 1960s was 8 weeks at Indiana University. And that was considered a lot of training at the time.
In 1969, the first class of officers trained completed a 240-hour course conducted at Indiana Central College in Indianapolis. Of the 100 officers that voluntarily began the class, 98 graduated. Training moved to Indiana University's Bloomington with the second class. Training would stay in Bloomington for the next 6 years as work on building a permanent academy progressed and action in the legislature made the training a requirement for all police officers. On January 6, 1975, the 34th Basic Class was the first to train at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy in Plainfield. This permanent facility allowed the basic course of study to increase to 400 hours of instruction. With the addition of an outdoor firearms range and an emergency vehicle operations course in 1982, the basic course expanded to 2 weeks with 480 hours of instruction, which is where it stands today. Let's look at a few elements of basic training. One of the first things a student will do at the academy is to undergo physical testing. This will identify officers who need special attention during physically demanding training.
But what we see at first day assessment is that we have people that are way up high as far as being very well fit, and then we have people that haven't done anything for a number of years, and then we see a lot of 21, 22-year-olds that are just, they've never done anything, period. So what we try to do in the PT program starting out is out real slow. If we have somebody that's really having problems, anybody on staff will try to work with that person as far as diet or exercise and put them on a specialized program. We've also had them as far as bringing us what they've done for an entire week, and we'll check them off 12 weeks that they're here. So what we try to do is bring the bottom person up, and we try to get them somewhere around the middle or the mid-range. The people that are in very good shape now are going to keep that. They're going to maintain that because they've been doing it already. So we start with the low end of the scale at the beginning of 12 weeks. We work our way through so that come week 9, 10, when we get into the defensive tactics and the firearms, very heavy, hopefully we've got their arms, their finger and forearms, that type of thing into decent shape that they can go out and shoot 1,000 rounds of ammo out on the outdoor range. Come back in and do red man type situations, and again, defensive tactics, handcuffing, takedowns, those type of things.
After hours, students are encouraged to use the academy facilities to continue physical preparation on their own. Another component of the training is formations and drills.
There are several benefits that we derive from the formations and drills exposure. Number one, I would say the officers that are coming through training now, we're lucky if we have 20-25% of them are prior military. And whether we like to accept it or not, law enforcement, by its very nature, its organization, its rank structure, its uniform, its clothing, its appearance, is a paramilitary organization. And consequently, there are going to be times when they're going to function in a military-like manner. They're going to move in formation in the way of civil disturbances. They may be required to represent their agency at a fallen officer's funeral. Again, this protocol follows a lot of the military format that is exhibited. Anybody's watched TV where they've had honors rendered to a fallen soldier or serviceman. The other thing is it helps develop a teamwork approach, a teamwork mindset. They know that they have to pull their weight. If they don't, somebody's going to suffer from it. And that carries on into the job back home. If they do not show up on time, there's officers counting on them to be there. Their reliability, their trustworthiness. Another benefit that is derived from formations and drills, a lot of them learn a little bit about military bearing, demeanor, how to present themselves. They have to understand the way they are perceived by people on the street, not only the public, but the people that they're dealing with, the criminals. They are immediately assessing and sizing them up when they come up on a scene as what they think they can do with or against this officer. And if he has a positive bearing and carriage, it exhibits confidence, not arrogance, then it's probably going to be a factor that's going to enhance his safety.
Discipline is carried into all areas of the basic student's life at the academy. For example, rooms must be kept neat and clean. There are strict rules for movement in the halls between classes. For more efficient serving of breakfast and lunch, basic students enter in formation. Each student's presence at meals is recorded. They then move in an orderly fashion to select food. At each table of 4, all students remain standing at attention until the last person has arrived at the table.
Primary reason we're here and what we're trying to get across to them is the basic knowledge that's going to be essential to them as far as from their law enforcement career that they're getting ready to enter at this point in time. So we're going to give them basic knowledge basis on a variety of subjects, from classroom things such as criminal investigation, accident investigation, those types of things, the laws. Then also from a practical standpoint, we're going to do some of the hands-on, the driving that's a little different than normal driving, the firearms, the defensive tactics, and those things. But again, reiterate, this is the basics that we're trying to get across here, so we are somewhat limited into how far we can expand what we're trying to give to them in the 12-week time period they're here. The thing that we have some problems with is students, maybe they've worked a little while on the street or whatever, and they come in here and they have a certain idea of what law enforcement is. It may be from actual schooling, or it may be from things they've seen on TV or whatever it is. So we try to stress to them from the start that you have to have an open mind, and that we are going to show you ways that we know work in law enforcement. They're not the only ways, and we may try to show them several ways to work things, because as people know, enforcement is not a black and white area. We cannot tell them that every traffic stop you do step 1, step 2, step 3. So we try to give them some options, and we want them to keep an open mind, come in physically prepared and mentally prepared to have an open mind and be prepared to go through the 12 weeks.
One of the greatest challenges facing law enforcement in the 1990s is obtaining the most recent developments in the law and understanding how to apply those developments to the street and to citizens. The U.S. Supreme Court, interpreting the U.S. Constitution, is constantly coming down with new court decisions that deal with specific law enforcement issues. The Indiana Supreme Court and the Indiana Courts of Appeals also do the same thing. In fact, there is no other single activity of our life as American citizens that receives more attention from our court system in terms of court cases than law enforcement, than this area of criminal enforcement in our society. And rightfully so, because American citizens' liberty is deprived by being arrested, by being placed in jail. This is one of the most significant events that can happen in a citizen's life in a democratic society. No wonder the courts are constantly coming down with new court cases. No wonder the legislatures in our country from the Indiana legislature in Indiana to the Congress in Washington. No wonder they're constantly passing laws or repealing laws that deal with a police officer's power of arrest and everything else that goes with that.
I have two primary assignments. One is in the criminal investigation area. We try to give the students basic information as far as evidence collection, human behavior, problems that our society faces today. We get into the fact that the officer must work just as hard to prove that a person is innocent or is being involved in a crime, and also that the officer must be above reproach as far as his integrity during that investigation. The second area that I am assigned to is report writing. In report writing, we emphasize the fact that the rest is only half of the assignment. The other half of the assignment is the fact that they must have the documentation so that when the event comes to a trial months or years away, they have the documentation to support the arrest that they made at the time of the arrest.
There also are a number of specialty lectures. For example, police officers need a basic knowledge of power line safety, since they would most likely respond to accidents or storm damage where power lines are down. Officers also receive training in basic water rescue techniques. Police work can put stress on a family relationship, and that is why lectures on dealing with stress are scheduled on Visitors' Day. But that is just one element of training in psychology.
By the very nature of this job, police officers will interact with human beings at various levels of human behavior, from those where there's a friendly hello going in and out of a restaurant to those places where somebody is experiencing a life and death situation. And how one responds to people in that varied array of circumstances has everything to do with how congruent they are. One must match the behavior of the moment with the behavior required, and many people grow up in society in this day and age with a very narrow left and right limit of human understanding and human behavior and flex with human conditions and personalities. What we try to do here is to broaden the perspective if necessary, or to delve a little deeper into such considerations, that by the time these officers leave the academy, they at least have a working knowledge we trust in the varied ramifications of human behavior, so that they can step back and look at human behavior from a non-personal bent and try to flex a bit with the urgencies and the situations that they will be required to adjust to and to deal with as they go on the street.
It's been a fact for some time that the greatest liability area for police is use of force, specifically the less than lethal force area. This liability is manifested in the form of a double threat for police officers. First, of course, would be in terms of personal safety for the officer and whoever he or she might be dealing with, and secondly, in terms of both professional and personal welfare. There is some evidence that concern over personal liability may be causing hesitancy on the part of some officers to react when necessary, which result in serious injury or death. Police officers have always been charged with a duty to control resistive and violent people, but only with a degree of force which would be considered reasonable and necessary so as not to violate individual rights. In practice, this can only be managed by highly trained individuals. Our tactics program at the Academy provides a very basic start for new officers who we hope will continue to train throughout their careers. The program includes training in a model use of force continuum, which provides them with a basic model to categorize both levels of resistance and levels of force, so that appropriate decisions can be made not only in when to use force, but how much. Officers are also trained in physical control methods, which are applicable to the levels of control in the force continuum, so that the concept of reasonable force is defined in terms of actual physical actions. Survival attitude and psychological considerations are also emphasized so that officers know how to train for performance under actual stressful conditions.
The Academy only has enough time to train fundamentals of shooting, to become proficient, to understand liabilities, factors and the basic fundamentals of handling a firearm. We have, starting off in our training, we start off with 6 hours of classroom, which covers the safety factors, the liability factors of carrying a firearm, both on duty, off duty, the responsibility of safety, because if they have children, or even if they don't have children, if they have company, they need to have that responsibility. And after the 6 hours of classroom, then we take them out to our outdoor range and we train 40 some hours, about 44 hours of range training, dealing with the fundamentals of the handgun and fundamentals of shotgun. And during this training, they must qualify after the 44 hours of training. They must qualify 3 out of the 3 times they go through, they must fire a 2 out of a possible 300 score. You may go through 20 years of law enforcement and never have to draw that weapon. But if you have to, that one time to save your life or to save someone else's, you must have those skills. They should be there. It should be a reaction.
I'm the instructor at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy that teaches the block on vehicle crash investigations to the basic students. I like to call it vehicle crash management because I start from the time they get the initial call, what information they need, where the crash is at. We also talk about how to run with your red blue lights on, with your siren, which is an emergency run, how to set up properly when you arrive at the scene, how to take care of the injured people at the scene, after your emergencies are taken care of and out of the way, how to properly the scene with scene sketches and photographs, plus how to get certain information about the vehicles, the damage to the vehicles, maybe injuries to the drivers, and so forth. Then we talk about how you should clear the with the idea that once you get all this information, if it ever goes to court, you'll have the information that you'll need to feel comfortable when you're testifying on the witness stand. A lot of people do not realize that once you turn that red-blue light on and activate the siren, the possibilities of you being injured or killed in duty have gone up tremendously. Therefore, we want to try to minimize that risk to the officer by showing them proper techniques and how to use their safety equipment properly. One of the things we try to stress is defensive driving, how to that emergency vehicle in the safest manner to both the student and the motoring public. We also discuss some of the safety equipment in the vehicle and if it's properly worn, how they can reduce injuries.
Officers from departments using the town marshal form of policing receive a modified course of study in a program at the academy.
Basically, it's the town marshal program was developed for the smaller communities that have 3 or less paid police officers on their department. Smaller communities can't afford to send an officer away for 12 weeks without any protection at all while they're receiving this training. So accelerate their training, hoping that it won't hinder the town and the community too much for them being gone only a week. Maybe they can have a reserve or a marshal or a deputy marshal, someone cover for them that week while they're gone. And then when they return, then they can go back to active duty for another 5 weeks and then be gone for another week and then carry on, so that they won't just have no protection at all. Once they are a graduate of the Town Marshal's Academy, if they want to move on, say to a larger department, whichever one is looking to always improve themselves. If they hire on to a department that's larger than their 3-man department, then they must come back through the course.
From small communities to our largest cities, all new police chiefs are required to attend a 5-day training program at the academy during the first year of their appointment. One of the skills taught in that course is media relations, complete with a simulated news conference. In-service classes are offered at the Academy for active police officers to continue their law enforcement education. This in-service training role of the Academy grew in 1993 when a new law took effect requiring that police officers receive at least 16 hours of in-service training year of their career in order to maintain their police powers. While we believe Indiana's law enforcement officers are among the best trained in the nation, a continuing education effort will help further professionalize the police service. The training that takes place at the Academy wouldn't be possible without the hard work and dedication of the support staff, tracking the records of student officers, purchasing the supplies and paying the bills, maintaining the appearance and function of the buildings, printing the manuals and instructional materials, maintaining the hundreds of reference books and other materials in the Academy library, shooting photographs and creating videos for records and training, keeping the building clean and servicing the 200 rooms of resident students, distributing supplies and student mail, and preparing hundreds of meals 5 days a week. All of this work makes the educational process possible, and for the students, most of it goes on unnoticed, quietly in the background.
Jackie L. Antrovis, Marion Police Department.
For 12 weeks, basic students look forward to graduation day, a day filled with the pride of accomplishment. The past 3 months have been a challenge, mentally, physically, and emotionally, yet these officers persevered.
When each class graduates from this academy, we try to leave with them the impact that what they've done here is strictly basic training. What it is a foundation for them to build on. Start their lifetime in law enforcement, and then they have to continue that educational process if they're going to be successful in the law enforcement field. It is an academy, and the board originally adopted the policy that an academy for all the people. And that doesn't mean just for police officers, that means for the citizenry out there. It means that we have to have confidence that they understand that this academy is training officers who are going out there to protect and to provide service to them.
Some of these officers will never cross paths again in their career, but some have formed friendships that will last a lifetime. Still, for all of them, the 12 weeks at the Academy will remain an important milestone in their lives. For from here, they will take their place in our line of guardians for all the people.
I hope you enjoyed this month's program, and will tune in again with us next month when we will take you on a tour of the Indiana State Police Youth Education and Historical Center. We'll also tell you about the many state police youth camps available for children from ages 9 to 19. Until next month, please be the most courteous driver on the road, and please remember to buckle up. The life you save may be your own or that of somebody you love.